Hello again and welcome to Mordian Mondays, episode 19. For those of you that are new to this series of videos, Mordian Mondays are all about documenting the progress of the Great Mordian Restoration Project. And that is my painting project where I am completely restoring and overhauling my Mordian 50th rifles. I've been collecting Mordian Iron Guard for 15 years, but unfortunately that was from a very young age, and that means that my painting skill was very, very bad. And it wasn't until recently that I actually really started taking my painting more seriously, and so all the previous models, all my old Mordian Iron Guard and Cadians that I used as part of the Mordian Iron Guard were in a very, very poor state, very badly battered, many thick coats of paint. I didn't used to, and the models that I bought new, I didn't use to base coat, so it was either really thick paint or really thin paint. Terrible, basically. And the Great Mordian Restoration Project is all about restoring this army to its rightful place as the principal army that is featured on this channel. I aim to get a unit done every week, but obviously sometimes real life gets in the way, and this is an example. This unit I finally completed. It took me the better part of 2 weeks, to be honest, guys. It did, but I finally completed another Mordian Assault Infantry Squad. Now, some of you may be a little confused, saying there are no such thing as assault infantry squads in the Imperial Guard Codex. Well, what I mean by that, guys, is it doesn't have a heavy weapon in it, and it's a squad that's primarily geared up for getting close and personal with the enemy. It's just a normal infantry squad. Typically, I arm these things with flamers and power weapons. But in this case, I went for something a little different, and I gave the sergeant of this squad a plasma pistol. Now, before we get into, why I chose these weapons or the tactics behind this squad, I've painted many assault squads. In fact, I think this is my 6th or 7th assault squad that I've now painted up. I'll go through the bits that I used on this unit, because some of you may have noticed straight away that these don't look like normal Games Workshop bits, and you would be right, they're not. So the legs and bodies of these guys are from Anvil Industries, and they are the parade ground uniforms. I like all Anvil parts. These come in resin, and I have to say they go together really, really well. If I was to it's difficult to be honest. If I was to do a Mordian regiment now, considering you can't realistically buy metal Mordians anymore unless you're willing to, get a second mortgage and buy them from eBay. I would seriously consider buying straight from Anvil Industries. The parts, every single one of them was perfect. There was no flashing, no warping. Whilst I only bought the legs and the torsos, and obviously the heads, and the rest of the arms and the weapons and whatnot, they're Games Workshop bits. I have to say the Anvil bits do look good. They do look really, really, really good. So if you are considering starting a custom regiment, you can get away with just doing a head swap on Cadians. Absolutely, you can get away with doing that. And in fact, that's what I've done with the majority of my Cadians. And this squad that you see here will probably be the only mostly Anvil Industry part squad that I do, simply because I've already got loads and loads of Cadians that need converting up. But I have to say the Anvil parts do look great, and they do go together absolutely, absolutely fantastically. So other bits to talk about. You'll notice that I've got backpacks on these guys as well. So again, I bought these from Anvil Industries. These backpacks are I believe they're haversacks. They're not the Bergens. These ones are they're perfect for the Mordians. They're sort of like Napoleonic style backpacks, but they have like modern hand grenades attached to them, which I think is really, really good. They're perfect for sci-fi. As a result, these guys actually look like really, really grenade heavy, because often they have backpacks on. They have grenades on the belt, and then they've got grenades on the backpacks as well. You can see I've taken a picture of all the backpacks. It will come up in the round of photos. You can see there's loads of different designs. You've got ones which got like a little mess cup on it, one which has got like old style sort of M67 fragmentation grenades, and the the modern day ones, and then you've got ones which are more similar to the current guard ones, which are the bobbly ones, not the smooth round ones. But to be honest, I had so much fun painting this squad because it's such a smorgasbord of bits which has gone into them. Such a variety of parts. So the sergeant, we'll go through these models pretty much one by one because each one of them is fairly unique. So the sergeant himself has got bits from, like I said, the legs and the torso and the head. They're straight from Anvil Industries, and so is his backpack. The pistol, the plasma pistol, and the swagger stick, they're from the guard officer kit. And then he's got a set of grenades just from the regular guard infantry squad. But then, I'm not sure you should be able to see it on the picture. His water bottle is actually not the normal. It's not the normal one from the Imperial Guard kit. That's actually from the Scion kit, and it just adds that little bit more variety to the model. It really does. It just adds that extra bit of depth of detail. If we then look at the knife fighter guy, this is probably the third or fourth knife fighter guy that I've included in the army. There's a reason for that. My Mordians love getting up close and personal. I have to say, Imperial Guard in theory is a shooting army, but my Mordians always seem to do just better in close combat. They don't have any buffs or anything. Most of them have a priest giving them an extra attack. But for some reason, I always seem to, let's say you charge with a full squad of Mordians, you've got 12 attacks, because you've got 10 guys, plus 1 for the sergeant, plus 1 for the sergeant having a chainsword. And you should hit with 6, right? My Mordians will consistently hit with 8 or 9 or 10 even. And then if they're going against Marines, they should get like 1 or 2 wounds statistically. And my Mordians will consistently be like, oh, those eight, wounds, those 8 hits you got, those 9 hits you got, yeah, 5 wounds. Consistently, and then the enemy inexplicably, even though they've got a 3-up save, will fail like 4 of them. It's just stupid. I've had a single Mordian infantry squad that's completely statistically unlikely. But between Overwatch, and they just had lasguns, they took a couple of wounds off this guy in Overwatch, off this Terminator captain in Overwatch, Spaceman Terminator captain in Overwatch, and then he came in, flubbed his attacks somehow, and my Mordians killed him. I've had that. It's insane. My Mordians just are statistically statistical anomalies in close combat. So that's why I love to have these knife fight models. That's me paying a little bit of homage to that, to my how my Mordians would prefer to operate. Going through his parts, obviously, again, like I said, he's got legs, body, head from Anvil Industries. He's then got grenades and the knife pouch from the regular infantry squad, of course. Then his arms, interestingly, right? So if you notice his shoulder pads, he's up there now. His shoulder pads are from the Chimera kit. I know, crazy, right? They're the Chimera tank, tank commander that can poke out the top, and he comes with 2 free sort of shoulder pads, and they've both got skulls on, so I put them on this guy. And I have to admit, I've obviously put effort into brightening up the models, and I'll go into that technique later, but the little gold on the shoulder pads really does help brighten the model up as well. And the las pistol he's wielding, now I know this guy, rules-wise, doesn't actually have a las pistol, but again, it just adds that little, it's such a trivial, non-WYSIWYG thing that no one's ever going to notice. He's got the rifle on his back. The las pistol's from the Chimera kit, and the arm is actually an arm you can get from Anvil Industries. It's for the banner. So when you get the Anvil Industry banner and bugle set, one of the arms that you can put the banner in is a bit weird, to be honest. It doesn't quite. I don't know how you meant to really use it, but I found it perfect for slotting a knife in. So that's what I did, put a knife in his hand. So there you go, lots of different parts on that guy. The bugle guy, obviously, it may be the 41st millennium, but you still got your drummers. Got a drummer in the last squad that I showed off, and I got a bugle in this squad. Gotta have your bugle, gotta have it. This guy has no special rules. He's just a lasgun guy, just a rifleman. He's got his rifle slung over his back. But you know, it's just cool. It's just cool. And again, it adds so much. This squad is probably one of the most flavoursome squads that I've ever built and created. It's got so many parts from different kits. Just in it. And his pointing arm is from the Acadian officer kit. Acadian command squad kit. The Voxcaster guy. So his Voxcaster is from the Scion kit. And so, you know, that's his Voxcaster and his arm with the phone in it. And then his body and legs and head are from Armour Industries. His arm is actually a converted part from the heavy weapon team sprue. That you had, it's meant. I'm not sure what it's meant to hold, but what I had to do is I put the arm on, and then I had to cut the hand off at the wrist, twist it about 90 degrees, so that it was facing upwards rather than like a cupped hand. It was so then I could put the rifle in it, and then it looks like he's sort of got his rifle butt first on the ground, and then his rifle again is also from the heavy weapon team kit. You'll notice that I've taken a picture of some of the riflemen, just basic riflemen, to show off some of the extra bits that I used on this squad as well. Again, I took water bottles and daggers from the Scion kit, and again, it just adds a little different. I just fancied mixing it up. The whole point of the Mordian 50th rifles, the reason why we have the mixture of Acadian kit and classic Mordian kit, the reason why we have the different skin tones in the army is and the different, you know, sometimes we've got different patterns of equipment in there. You know, like the Mordians have got their galaxy pattern las rifles, and then the Acadians have got their Cantril pattern rifles. The reason we've got those differences is because the Mordian 50th, they do receive reinforcements from their home world, but they typically absorb. They're an infantry regiment that takes heavy casualties constantly. They're used aggressively to conquer planets. They are an attacking force. Obviously, they do their fair share of defence as well. As a result, they often absorb, because they need this constant flux of reinforcements to stay up at key fighting strength, at optimal performance. The Mordian 50 rifles often absorb remnants of other regiments and force them to say, yeah, you're joining our regiment, but we're being the primary regiment. Anyone who joins our regiment is the secondary. You know, it's not like you're a second-class citizen or anything like that, not at all, but you will adopt our ways. We're not merging, you are coming into our regiment. And so that's why you have all these different patterns of equipment and whatnot. And this squad here might just be a squad of guardsmen. You know, the reason they've got different body armor, different grenades, different daggers, it might simply be because these guys are all that's left of a particular regiment or a particular company that was originally non-Mordian, and then the Mordian 50th have gone, well, you know, you've still got to keep fighting for the guards, so you know, you're getting folded in with us. Very, very likely. What the Mordian 50 does is say, you know, you will be treated exactly this, whether you are original, you know, Mordian, or whether you are an adopted, you know, Mordian, whether you've been coming to our regiment, you will all be treated exactly the same. But you have to obey our rules. Obviously, you have to get with the Mordian way, and you have to adapt your uniform to match ours. Okay, I don't care if your original uniform was really tactically viable and awesome. That's not the way we do things. We are Mordians. Get with the program. Okay, and you know, and generally speaking, it works. It works well. I find well, the fluff behind it is it works surprisingly well, because it means that the Mordians 50s rifles, whilst they have their bread and butter tactics, they do also get the advantage of multiple way of absorbing tactics from other regiments that have been brought in. You know, they learn things. You know, and this is what is coming up with my third platoon that I'm working on. This is the second platoon. The third platoon I'm working on, which is the Assault Corps. And the Assault Corps is basically is going to be a full platoon of like stormtroopers, but not like, you know, the Tempestus Scions. No, we're talking these guys are modelled after the Kazakin of the Cadians, because the two primary regiments that make up the Mordian 50th Rifles are Mordian regiments and Cadian regiments. Ever since the fall of Cadia, those two are the primary source of fighting men in the regiment. And so the Cadians came in and said, yo, we have this, maybe not yo, but, yo, we have this way of fighting where we don't get assigned stormtroopers from the Militarum Tempestus. The best of our regiment get elevated to Kazakin, essentially. And we make our own in-house stormtroopers, essentially. And the Mordian 50th Rifles went, that's actually a really good idea. We want to develop our own. And so what I've got coming up, guys, and I've got the models and everything for this sorted. I just need to finish off the second platoon, and I can start working on this probably after Christmas. The Assault Corps is made up of 6 squads of stormtroopers. Now, I'm not using the Militarum Tempestus rules. I'm using the Death Corps of Krieg Grenadier rules, because they're essentially exactly the same as stormtroopers, but they're 1 point cheaper and you can't deep strike. So I'm saving that point. And also the sergeants can take hotshot rifles. And now that's really important, because what I'm doing, guys, is I've got loads of like the 3rd edition classic vac suit stormtrooper models. I've got loads of them. So what I'm doing is I'm taking 6 squads of those vac suit stormtroopers, but each one of those squads is led by one of the old school metal Kazakin models. And so what this represents is the vac suit stormtroopers. They're the ones that have been drawn from the regular ranks. They're the ones that have been drawn. They display the particular traits that make up that are desirable in the Stormtrooper Corps. This is based off like the World War I German Stormtroopers. You know, heightened aggression, big, strong motherfuckers. Really, you know, an aptitude for close quarters and storming positions. You know, all those things. And so those guys have been elevated up from the regular rank and file, and then any Kazakin that got folded in to the Mordian 50th along with the Cadian regiments that got absorbed, a Kazakin has been made a squad leader, and they're showing them the ropes. This is how we operate. This is how we do things. You know, but the Mordians put their own twist on it, because the Mordians are like, you know, the Mordian 50th is like, we don't really have the ability to deep strike you, and we don't use air cover. We're a World War I style infantry regiment, and we're a classic guard regiment of foot. So you are going to be given the best equipment that the regiment can get, and you will be overseen by our regimental commissariat. But you won't be able to deep strike. We haven't got any Valkyries that are coming in and dropping you off. You're going to have to storm those trenches, old school style. So that's what you guys have got to look forward to. That's the fluff behind. I mentioned the Assault Corps last week. That's the fluff behind them. That's the models that are going into them. Each squad will be either made up. Every squad's got 8 hotshot rifles in it, because Grenadiers. Death Corps Krieg Grenadier squads can only take 2 special weapons, but the advantage is that they're troops, they're a point cheaper, and they don't take morale damage from being shot at. So if I lose 9 of the men from one squad, if it's from shooting, that other guy's auto passes morale check, battle shock test. But each squad will either have, a couple of flamers in there, or they'll have melter guns in there. I've got some plasma guns. I've got some grenade launchers. It's going to be a real smorgasbord of, use that word twice now. It's going to be a real bouquet, I'm using fancy words this week apparently, of weapons that are going to be in there. Again, it's going to represent that these guys have just got to be able to storm a trench. I've got a kind of one slight disadvantage. This is a real disadvantage, is the classic metal stormtroopers and the Kazakin, they're very expensive to come by. So you kind of, when it comes to special weapons, I've got loads and loads of the basic riflemen, loads of them that I picked up for a reasonable-ish price. You know, an average of like £3 to £4 per metal rifleman. But the special weapons, even for ones that you don't particularly want, like flamers, you don't particularly want them, especially on your normal scions, they're very expensive to come by. You're looking at £10 to £15 minimum, and you'll often see the classic metal plasma gunners going for £22 or 20 quid for one model. It is insane. So you kind of have to make do with what you've got, because ideally what I'd put on every single one of these stormtrooper squads would be 2 plasma guns. Ideally, that, of course, that would be perfect. 12 plasma guns right coming at you. Can't do that. Not willing to spend £240 on 12 models. And I would be lucky to find 12 on eBay. I would genuinely be very lucky if I found 12. I mean, you come across them in 1s and 2s. So as a result, I'm unfortunately making use of, from a competitive standpoint, I'm making use of, sub-efficient choices. So I have 3 plasma guns. That's the 3 metal stormtrooper plasma guns that I've got. I've also got 2 to 3 melter guns as well. So they're the 2 choices you really want on your squads. The rest of them are grenade launchers and flamers, which are okay, but they're not ideal. But having said that, I think it's interesting. You see, so now we're moving on from the hobby side of things. We're moving into the tactics side of the Mordian Mondays. So, thinking out loud on the Assault Corps. Because I'm using Death Corps of Krieg Grenadier rules for them, it's kind of the way you use them is very different. Because normal stormtroopers, you want to be getting as much plasma in there as possible, because you're going to be deep striking in, firstly, and you're going to be wanting to get that rapid fire plasma goodness going off, or you're going to be driving up in a Taurox and jumping out with a big 10-man squad that you could do first rank fire, second rank fire on, because that will get you 4 shots per rifleman in a squad of 10, which is, that can really hose down some infantry. One of the best, horde clearing things that Scions can do, and guard in general can do, is take a Taurox, give it the Gatling cannon, give it the hotshot volley guns, and put a 9-man squad in there with an officer, and the officer and the 9 men jump out, and the officer tells them first rank fire, second rank fire. And that's 32 hotshot lasgun shots hitting on 3s. You'll be in half range, so any 6s you get will generate you an extra shot. Grenadiers, Death Corps of Krieg, they don't get the first rank fire, second rank fire rule. Weirdly, they don't get it. What they get instead is the order without mercy, which switches your lasguns from rapid fire 1 to pistol 2. Now, what that means is, really interestingly, your grenadiers will be getting 2 shots at 18 inch. It's like a worse version of first rank fire, second rank fire, because first rank fire, second rank fire gives you rapid fire 2, so you get your 2 shots at 18 inches. But with the Death Corps of Krieg, if you get when you get within rapid fire range, you're still just pistol 2, so you're still just getting 2 shots. So the interesting thing is that there's actually, whilst these are the stormtroopers, they're not there getting in close and beating the crap out of people, and they're not a melee unit necessarily. What these guys will do is they will storm a position, take it, and fortify it. They don't need to be getting into close combat. There just needs to be right, there's an objective on the board, an objective in the centre of the board or off on a flank. Right, these 6 stormtroopers are going to go and they're going to take it, and then I'm going to have that objective. And then what that's going to allow me to do is literally be like, okay, well, I'm here now. my enemy is within 18-inch range, I don't need to get any closer to take advantage of my orders. I'm quite comfortable sitting in this cover that I've taken, sitting in this position that I have taken, and just everyone getting 2 lasgun shots every turn, always doing it, 2 hotshot lasgun. So because of that, because of that shift in the way they work, this is the point I'm trying to make. Traditional weapons like plasma and melter, and plasma's still very good, but melter is a bit like, you know, you have to take a second thought about that, because it's like, you know, you're not really aiming to get within 12-inch range. Now, obviously, you've got to prepare for any situation that you come across, and sometimes it might not be that you're trying to get within 12-inch, but the enemy might be trying to get in 12-inch of you, in which case, having a defensive melter gun, very, very potent. But what this actually means is that when it comes to looking at Death Corps Krieg Grenadiers, the kind of weapons you want to be looking at are plasma guns, but they're expensive, 11 points a pop, and grenade launchers. Because the grenade launcher's got a 24-inch range, so it complements the Without Mercy order. And it's a cheap way of getting a little bit more punch into your hotshot lasgun squads. Because obviously, the grenade launcher is only at -1 AP versus the hotshot lasgun's -2, but it's got much better strength, double the strength. It's strength 6, and it's got that D3 damage, which can, you know, take a chunk out of something. And you know, grenade launchers in the hands of units that have got a 3+ to hit are surprisingly potent. They're extremely point efficient, because you can, especially, we've talked about this with veteran squads. Triple grenade launcher veteran squads are just a good way of running veterans, just foot veterans, because they're cheap investment, and your opponent will just get sick and tired of getting crack grenaded, and then he'll shoot them, but then you don't really care that they die. Foot veterans with 3 grenade launchers and missile launcher just shooting crack rounds is kind of like a weird distraction kind of effect, and it's highly effective at doing that. It's just enough damage that your opponent can't ignore it, and it's not a huge point investment that you care when they die, and they essentially function as just slightly more expensive infantry squads, so you don't have to build any special tactics with them. But there we go, guys. So that's, obviously, we've talked about the modelling side of things. Now we've talked about the tactics side of things. What is the plan for next week? Well, I've for 2 weeks on the trot now, 3 weeks actually, 3 weeks on the trot. I have painted converted Cadians, or plastic models, essentially. This, I think, for the next week, definitely going to get another classic metal Mordian infantry squad painted up. And I can tell you guys, all you guys who are obsessive about me not filling my slaughter bases in with milliput to hide the gaps, you can all rejoice, because the squad that I will be painting will have filled in slaughter base gaps. Now, just before the video ends, one thing I'd like to shout out is, I hope you guys have noticed I used my new painting technique. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but I got excited. I got excited talking about the assault corps idea I've got. Hope you guys noticed the efforts I put into brightening the models up. I've done edge highlighting on the guys, and I've done dry brushing. So I've edge highlighted Warpstone Glow, and I've done a very light dry brush of Niblet Green, because I don't want to do it too much. I don't want to start looking like it's like a camouflage scheme. It's not a camouflage, it's just to brighten the models up a little bit. This is the first squad that's had it done. It did add quite a bit more time, to be honest, but what I found is when I did it in a batch, it was much quicker, much quicker. So the plan is, guys, going forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the brightening technique, the edge highlighting, the dry brushing. I'm going to do that on the next 4 infantry squads and the platoon commissar and the platoon priest. Then that will be 2nd platoon finished. Okay, so once 2nd platoon is finished, what I will do is go back to first platoon and all the other models and do the technique on them, with the aim being by the end of 2019, which is November, because it will probably take me most of November and December to get second platoon finished, with the aim being that once I have finished second platoon, I will then have a couple of weeks at the end of the year to go back and apply the technique, because it takes about a day. Well, not a full day, but it takes a couple of evenings to apply the technique to the rest of to a squad. So I'll sit down and I'll get into the groove of it, and I'll do a load of edge highlighting and drive rushing, and then the end result will be by the end of 2019, I will have 2 full platoons of Mordian Iron Guard fully restored, which will be 120 infantry plus support elements. Now, well, actually, the end result will be I'll have 12. To be specific, I'll have 12 infantry squads, a squad of Ogrins, a squad of plasma veterans, 2 Lord Commissars, 2 company commanders, 2 platoon commanders, 2 Ministorum priests, 2 squads of mortars, and officer of the fleet, well, actually, and various other officer models will be completed, and I'll have two full platoons. Well, to be absolutely pedantic, it'll be 1 full platoon and 1 nearly full platoon, because what each one of my platoons gets is you get your 6 infantry squads, but you also get your veteran squad, your heavy weapon team, and your Ogrin, your auxiliary. So I will need to also, by the end of the year, if I want to aim to have 2 full platoons done, I'm going to need to come up with an auxiliary unit, which may be Ogrins, or maybe something else, auxiliary unit, and I'll need to get another squad of veterans completed. That's the aim. So I've still got a lot. It's the 3rd of November as of recording this video, so it's the 4th for when the video will be posted, so that's just under 8 weeks. Now, I will be off at Christmas, so that will give me some time to do painting, but not a huge amount, because obviously Christmas time, spending it with family and whatnot. So 8 weeks, and I've got to get 4 more infantry squads done, an auxiliary squad, and a veteran squad. So that's 6 squads done, and then I will have to get or do all the edge highlighting and stuff as well. So it's going to be a tight deadline, but by the grace of the Emperor, I will achieve it, and with some hard work and whatnot. So there we go, guys. Finally, we've got to the end of the video. This is a long one this week, but lots to talk about. The Assault Corps has come together. I've got the models together now. Just got to finish second platoon, and then going into 2019, we're going to get that 3rd platoon up, and it's going to be an assault platoon, a proper Assault Corps platoon, which is going to be awesome. Lots of hobbying, lots of painting, lots and lots of tactics discussions. I hope you guys are excited as I am. This painting project is really, really starting to shapen up to be something very interesting. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please leave lots and lots of comments. Tell me what you think about the new technique. Tell me what you think about the Assault Corps idea. And as always, if you've got any ideas for what you want me to paint next, I can do. I mean, I've got in front of me now, laid out, I've got a classic metal Mordian squad. It's got a melter gun, and the sergeant's got a power sword and las pistol. But, you know, I'm always open to ideas. This is just, I'm constantly shifting. My mood takes me wherever it takes me. What would be quite interesting is, what do you reckon I should take for my auxiliary unit for this second platoon? Now, quite easily, I could just go and get myself another box of Age of Sigmar Ogres and convert them over to Ogrins. Could do that, no problem. I love my Ogres. What about, though, potentially some Rattling Snipers? Maybe some Crusaders? It's got to be some kind of out of the normal command structure auxiliary unit. Typically, you know, I'm thinking, I'm leaning towards Ogrins / Bulgrins, But I could very much be persuaded to do something like Ratlings. Because I haven't got any Ratlings in my army. I'd normally use as normal snipers, but I think a big squad of Ratlings would actually be quite a nice addition. Why don't I have Ratlings? Something to think about. Thank you for listening, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.